So we'll just start off with a little bit. So carcinogens, they occur everywhere. They're in our environment, but the most data says that they're linked diet to cancer. There's all kinds of external and internal sources. So there's a lot of studies that have been done on animals, on people to find these links. So it's not just a shoot a shot in the dark, it really is evidence-based. It's essential that it's estimated that 1/3 of cancer deaths each year in the United States can be attributed to nutrition and other lifestyle factors, other than smoking, because that's kind of that's an immediate, that's 1 + 1 = 2. That one's an easy one. So just to give you some information on the case studies and see how and the validity of them, the diets of individuals with cancer are compared with those that are cancer-free controls matched for age, sex, and other key factors. So we take the same female, same age, same type, match it with cancer and then without cancer, and then you see the differences in lifestyle and diet. So that's one of the studies. A cohort study are diets of different groups of subjects are determined before cancer onset, and the incidence of developing cancer in each group is compared. So that is following them along the path, and then when it does develop, you go back and you look and see what the factors are that are similar. Cross-sectional studies are diets of different groups of subjects are compared using the same measures at a single point in time. So during a single point in the disease state or in the treatment state. So those are the different studies that they do. So we're going to talk about a lot of different things. It's a complex relationship between nutrition and cancer. Dietary carcinogens, they're added to food all the time. Preservatives, additives, stabilizers, anything that adds shelf life, color, brightness, the shape of the food. I mean, there's a lot of things additives to the food. So we want to steer away from those things. Antioxidants and phytochemicals inhibit carcinogens. So those are the ones we want to gravitate towards. We'll talk about those. Those come from a lot of fruits and vegetables. So enhancers of carcinogens, we'll talk about those. Some things that maybe, like alcohol is a big one that we want to limit or eliminate from the diet. And then latency period between initiation and promotion. So that's just the time that the disease starts and then follows its track. So energy restriction or calorie control inhibits cancer and extends lifespan in animals, and that's been studied for years. There's a positive association between being overweight and cancers of the breast, endometrium, kidney, colon, prostate, and others. And that's a big one. Overweight, way above, let's say, 30th percentile, increases the risk of cancer reoccurrence and decreases survival. So we want to really invest in exercise, eating healthy, eating the right types of foods, and overall health. Any questions so far? Nope. Okay, so we're going to go over these specific foods that contribute in one way or another to your overall treatment. So there's fats, proteins, soy, which has anybody heard any information about soy?
I've heard stay away from it.
Mixed, yeah. Stay away from it. Everything in moderation, but it depends on the type of cancer that you have. And then carbohydrates, refined sugars mostly, and just trying to keep your glycemic index low. So that means just stabilizing your blood sugar, more of an even keel, so that it doesn't have the spikes, the highs and the lows. And then going towards more fruits and vegetables, and then we'll talk about sweeteners. Okay. Alcohol, coffee, tea. There's different methods of preparation and preservation that contribute to whether the food is inhibitor or contributor to healing and cancer, staying cancer-free. Cancer chemo prevention, then we'll talk about recommendations as far as nutrition and physical activity, and then how that does affect survival. So here is the good stuff. So phytochemicals is a big word for what these fruits and vegetables have in them that have positive effects on our bodies. So, yes.
Do you have handouts that have that stuff on there?
What I did bring is tips on how to incorporate more fruits and vegetables and grains and the right type of proteins in your diet. And I haven't even brought you a shopping list.
Okay.
So these, you want to go towards the brighter the fruit and vegetable, the better. That's the simple way of picking your veggies. So reds, berries, cantaloupe, melons, oranges, the deep green vegetables like spinach, kale, and the whites, like onions, leeks, things like that. So we have a whole list of those, and those are all incorporated in tips on how to get more fruits and vegetables, because we just target mainly those. And then, so these are key guidelines. Choose a diet rich in a variety of plant-based foods. Eat plenty of fruits and vegetables, which is similar. Maintain a healthy weight and be physically active, and that is very, very, very important. Drink alcohol only in moderation, if at all. Select foods low in fat and salt, and prepare and store food safely. So it's all in how you prepare it, how you store it, and the cleaner the food, the more natural the food, the shorter the shelf life, because there's nothing there that's going to keep it from molding and doing what food is supposed to do. So diets containing both inhibitors and enhancers of carcinogens. So there's been animal studies that show the correlation of food and nutrition for a long time. Fats. So high intake of total saturated fat is associated with increased risk of breast, colon, lung, and prostate cancer. So saturated fats, you hear trans fats all the time. Stay away from trans fats, stay away from trans fats. That is true. Saturated fats, however, are more solid at room temperature, like lard, Crisco, things like that. So those are the ones that also come in animal fats. So when you see the marbling and the fat on the sides of the meats, those are saturated fats. High-fat diets are associated with obesity, which is linked to cancer of the colon, rectum, esophagus, gallbladder. It's just one of those. It's one of those things we really need to stay away from. Animal fats they always come from animals. So anything dairy, any type of meat.
They give an example of a dairy fat.
Whole milk. Anything that has not had the fat skimmed from it, at least a percentage of it. So
non-fat yogurt would be okay?
Yes, yes. So if you go towards non-fat or low fat, those are the better options. Okay, so omega-3, let's get down to omega-3. Omega-3 versus omega-6 may reduce the risk of breast cancer. It's inflammatory. So omega-3s are the fats that come from fish, like salmon. It's naturally occurring in a lot of fishes. So omega-6s, and it tends to, omega-3s decrease inflammation. Where omega-6s, such as tilapia, there was this big thing where everybody's eating tilapia and everybody's eating lots of tilapia, but it's very high in omega-6, which is an inflammatory, and this happens with medications too, so we use them very liberally when treating patients, a sedative drug that is really high in omega-6, so we like to watch that too. Low-fat diets, less than 20% of fat may reduce the risk of reoccurrence of breast cancer. So when you're reading labels, does anybody read labels? Yes? When you're looking at the saturated fat, it may say 5 grams, which sounds like not very much, but if it says 30% saturated fat, that's what you need to look at. You need to look at the percentage of saturated fat when you're reading labels. Try to keep it as low as possible. 10 is great. 10 or below is good. activity, so total energy intake, that is all the exercise that you do, whether you're walking, going down the stairs, going to the gym, whatever you enjoy doing, you can do more often. So it is strongly associated with breast cancer in postmenopausal women. So total energy intake, that means calorie intake. Physical activity may have a protective effect. And women who spend an average of 3.8 hours a week doing physical activity have a lower risk of colon cancers and reproductive cancers. And these are all evidence-based, they're just really specific. But you can take all of these things like low fat, higher omega-3s, everything else that we talked about, and just group it all together, and they're all beneficial for everybody, not just cancer survivors, individuals who are just wanting to stay healthy and have longevity. Okay, so obesity is a risk factor for breast cancer, colon, endometrium, esophagus, gallbladder, pancreas, kidney, and probably a lot more cancers. So obesity, it's your body is not in a normal state, it's in a state of inflammation. When we do carry a little more weight, we have some fat around the organs. It's not just external, it's internal as well, and that's what we need to worry about. So, eating a healthier diet, lower fat diet, that is all going to be maintained. And physical activity, of course, is just the extra boost that you need to keep that low. Any questions? Protein. So protein is one of those things that we have to be very selective in the type of protein that you bring in. Protein is excellent for wound healing, but high amounts of protein does tend to have a negative effect. So it's difficult to isolate the effects of protein since high protein diets are high in fat and low in fiber. I could argue that because you can have a very high protein diet that is vegetable based, but you do have to supplement the B vitamins. So it is doable, but you just have to make sure you have all of the vitamins and minerals that you're foregoing by not having animal protein. Low protein diets seem to reduce the risk of cancer, while risk is increased by very high protein intake. So this is kind of just different ways of saying the same thing. Fiber. So anybody watch their fiber? Do you watch your fiber at all? Read labels, look for high fiber? What do you look for?
When I'm reading labels, I just see how much fiber it has, and if there's none, maybe that's something I wouldn't use, or if I had to use it, I'm aware of it. But yeah, I just have trouble with constipation, so I'm always looking at, how much fiber.
That's really good. And if you aim for 5 grams or above, that is what we would consider on the higher side.
And sometimes it's hard to find.
It is.
Something with that.
It is, but a lot of times if you get the whole grains, they haven't been processed, so they haven't been diluted in a sense, and they tend to be a little more high fiber. And I don't know if you guys have ever shopped in the refrigerator aisles for your bread, like Ezekiel bread. They have a lot of different breads in the refrigerator freezer. The clear float doors. In there is a huge variety of organic or naturally made breads, and they're very high in fiber. That's why they're in the freezer, because if they were to lay them out on the counter, they would mold it all with it.
Like that Ezekiel bread is
Uh-huh.
I just kind of, by chance, happened on that.
Yeah, it's really, and there are different types. There are some that are, have more seeds, some more wheat, some more different kinds of grains and things like that. And they're nutty, so you can toast them and they're delicious.
What about enriched breads?
Enriched breads means that when they went through the processing, that they had to put back in what was taken out during the processing. And they'll enrich it maybe sometimes with calcium. They'll enrich them sometimes with iron. What else? Vitamin D. It just depends on what they're trying to promote.
I very seldom eat bread, but when I do, I automatically go for Jewish rye. That's my favorite bread in the world.
Uh-huh.
So do they have something comparable in the?
Absolutely, absolutely.
I'll be happy then.
Okay, so in all these studies, fiber-rich diets are associated with protective effects on the colon. And it has so many other positive effects. It just helps rid your body of toxins and keeps things moving along like they're supposed to. Higher intakes in vegetables is inversely associated with colon cancer in some of the studies. And that just depends on your predisposition and how much roughage you're getting and what state the colon is in. You know, that's all details that are just very different. High fiber diets always tend to be lower in meat, fat, and refined carbohydrates, which is our goal.
I do have, when it comes to fiber or any kind of like vitamin, what is the pros and cons of gummy vitamins? Because I take gummy fiber because I take so many pills. I take gummy fiber and gummy calcium and gummy hair and nails.
They're easier to take, aren't they?
But I mean, is that
You just-
really bad? I mean, I realize that it's got sugar.
It's sugar. Yeah, that's the only thing. So I would just look at the amount of sugar that's on there. You know, if it's higher than 8, you know, you have to look cumulatively how much. If you're taking sugar in for that reason, maybe you would curve off in another area like juices or
Grape juices or
desserts or anything like that.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
So is that 8 a cumulative for the day or per
If
food
you're
product?
reading per serving per food product. So cereal labels are really easy to kind of tell the difference. So some cereals, their sugar content is 15. And some, the ones we want to lean towards, is about 8.
So you're saying 8 and below for sugar?
8 grams of sugar per serving. So when you're reading a label, it'll say how many calories, and it'll say per serving size 1/2 cup. So everything on that list is for that 1/2 cup. Yes. So if you have a whole cup, double everything. Protein, fiber. Go off that. So carbohydrates. So the glycemic index, a high glycemic index is associated with increased risk of cancers. Just, you know, and the idea is just to stabilize your blood sugar. So when you're having something, so we say the same thing for diabetics. So if you're having potatoes, which is a very healthy food, but it's high in carbohydrates, it will make your blood sugar jump. You need to balance that with something high fiber, and preferably high fiber and protein. So maybe a high fiber grain and a protein with it. And it just decreases the rapid increase in the blood sugar. So that combination is very, very helpful in keeping the blood sugar stable.
So if you wanted to have a baked potato for lunch and you put cheese on it, would that help with the spike in the blood glucose?
It will help a little bit. If you eat the skins, it will even be better. Limit processed foods and refined sugar and emphasize whole grains and lower glycemic index foods. So those just really mean high sugary foods. Those are your desserts. Fruit juices will make your blood sugar spike. So, you know, have a balanced meal with some protein, maybe some eggs, whole grains, and maybe 4 or 6 ounces of juice, not the big thing of juice, and then, you know, maybe some toast on the side, because that combination is just not what we want to do. We want to kind of balance it out. You can have yogurts, maybe add nuts to it for protein and fiber. That's another example too. So there's a lot of ways to combine them. Go ahead.
I have a question.
Yes.
So I live in Costco. I have
wow.
children. And I noticed that the latest thing they have in the yogurt section is the Greek yogurt with the chia seeds. It's kind of been the new thing. And so I know with dairy, we have to kind of balance that with breast cancer. So is going Greek a safer alternative? You know, so you still get probiotics, you still get, you know, like you said, I think the chia seeds are good in omega-3.
Yes.
So,
That's a very, very good balance.
Okay.
Because they're higher in protein than regular yogurts.
okay.
And then, you know, everything else you mentioned. It's a very, very good choice.
Okay, good. I won't carry it very long because they'll tease us with it and then make us
And then
go to
they'll
the store
pull it.
and they'll pull it. But right now I noticed that. I was like, oh, I'm going to get that. It actually tastes pretty good. The seeds don't bother you like that.
They thought they would get stuck in your teeth.
Yeah, that's the raspberries or something.
Yeah.
But isn't the Greek yogurt higher in fat?
Not all Greek yogurt is higher in fat.
That oat
It is
yogurt,
higher in protein.
0, it has no sugar, no, it's 0, 0, 0, it's no sugar.
Right,
or
and that's
something.
usually the plain Greek yogurt
No.
without flavorings.
There's some
Does
of
that
them have
have flavoring in
flavorings
it?
and there's no sugar and it tastes good. Yeah, I was like, I can't believe this. So
What do they flavor it with?
it was a, I
Yes.
don't know.
Yeah, I would check and see what they flavored it with and see,
Yeah, I'll look
if,
at
see if
that.
you can pronounce it. If you can pronounce
Oh,
it.
yeah, okay.
That was really
good.
good. Like orange puree or something like that, not sulfide dioxinate. Yeah. So those are really good ideas.
I still have a question about
Yes.
the juices, because I've always found this confusing. So you always hear about people proclaiming the wonders of juicing. And when I get juice at the grocery store, I always get, 100% juice, no sugar added. Well, I'm getting ready to start my chemo, and it says that, I have to drink 57 gallons of water a day, and I can't stand drinking water, so I thought, well, I'll drink juice and put water in the juice. But I hear you're saying it doesn't matter that it doesn't have sugar added, it will still spike.
Exactly. All fruits have natural sugar. So, say we have a slice of bread, it has 15 grams of carbohydrates in it. Depending on the juice, 4 to 6 ounces of juice has 15 grams of carbohydrates in it. They're both natural sugars. So it's not like putting, table sugar in it. They just didn't add any more sugar than to the fruit itself. But it still is high in sugar.
Even though it's natural sugar, not?
Yes. And it still will make your blood sugar spike.
So the body doesn't recognize the difference between a natural sugar and a refined sugar, like table sugar?
It depends on how much fiber is in the juice. So a lot of those juices, there are some of those machines that you can put everything in there, the skins and everything. And those tend to be better. It's best to put, mostly greens, kale, cucumber. There's all of your green vegetables in there, and maybe throw in one fruit, like an apple, and then some lemon juice to flavor it up a little bit. But that's kind of a better combination. They have some naked juices that are very, very good. They're mostly go towards the vegetable juices, the green ones. And they're really good. I think there was one, it's not Green Machine, it's something else. Have you guys seen it?
There's a lot of really good
It's
ones.
the one, it's the
The
it's
green
the one that
machine
has
is the one that
kale.
has the kale, the broccoli,
Kale, lemon.
spinach.
Yeah, maybe that's the one I'm thinking about.
But it doesn't taste as ugly as it
So
looks.
And it has all the fiber in it. Yeah.
It tastes so good. Yeah, you have to get past the way it looks, but it is so good. Absolutely right.
Yep. Okay. So fruits and vegetables, those are the ones we want to go towards. Increase consumption as much as you can. It helps with all kinds of cancers. Evidence less strong for hormone-related cancers such as breast cancer and prostate cancer. I think that is like one of the studies that you have to say what has been studied, but increased fruits and vegetables, antioxidants across the board does help with during treatment and post-cancer treatment. Longevity, it's an excellent way to go because you're getting your vitamins and your minerals and your antioxidants and your fiber.
So would you rate in order of best to worst you have your fresh vegetables, canned vegetables, frozen vegetables. I'm assuming fresh would be first.
Right.
Frozen second,
Frozen second.
and canned would be last.
Yes. Because they add a lot of sodium and preservatives in the canned goods. And if you have to use them, you can rinse them with water. Some people, that's what they prefer, or that's what they buy for their family. And so you can take a strainer and just put them in there and rinse them with water. At least you can get rid of some of it. Okay. So, fruits and vegetables. So we look at raw, leafy greens, lettuce, carrots, raw, fruits and vegetables. The cabbages. So not just the cabbage, but the Brussels sprouts, all those little leafy vegetables, the kale, flavonoids and lichens. Those are soy grains and vegetables, and we'll talk about those a little bit later. So low in energy, good source of fiber, vitamins and minerals. Those are all the benefits of fruits and vegetables. They're a good source of antioxidants, especially vitamin C, E, selenium. So anytime that anybody taking supplements, dietary supplements, vitamins, minerals, that kind of thing? So just your basic vitamin and mineral supplement is really all you need. You should focus more on getting it from foods, because those are the natural sources where our bodies are built to absorb those better. So that would be the first way to go, and then to supplement that just with a basic supplement, nothing super high proteins, anything like that.
What do you like supplementing with fiber? I mean, I'm like her. Constipation, oh my gosh. It's been an issue my whole life. And so I take fiber.
You take like a fiber con or something like that you mix with water?
It's a fiber pill, actually. Do those do any good? I mean, I take probiotics, and then I also take, it's a fiber pill that has oat grains in it and stuff too.
It depends on if it works for you. So different products work for different people. Metamucil works for some people really great. Having nuts every day works for some people. So it just depends on what works for you. Does it work for you, what you're doing?
If I don't take it, it's a real problem.
And then flushing with a lot of water as well. Yeah, that helps. Prune juice does help. It's that old-fashioned method, but it does work. It really does. So that could be just kind of a daily routine. So inhibiting hormone-dependent steps in tumor formation and protecting genetic material from carcinogen agents. That's the technical thing of what we're doing by eating healthier foods. So we want to suppress the free radical production, which the antioxidants do that. Serving as bulking agents to dilute carcinogens and decrease gastrointestinal transition time. And that's what you were talking about. So with the fiber that come with the fruits and vegetables, it increases your transit time out of the body so that the toxins that you have in your body are quickly removed. Okay, stimulators of physiological, active, and anti-cancer enzymes. Don't need to go there. So beta-carotene supplementation in Finnish smokers. Do you know, anybody know what Finnish smokers is? It comes from Finland. So it's, so it's like smoking cigarettes. So, I just thought that this was really interesting, but they had these houses that they would burn wood in, and they would stay in there and just hang out. They would, eat, they would smoke, they would hang out. That's what they did to stay warm. But it produced a lot of lung cancer. Yeah. I thought that was interesting, but the beta-carotene supplement was associated with 16% higher incidence in lung cancer. But breathing that kind of smoke for a long period of time, it all makes sense. Heavy alcohol intake seems to enhance the negative effects of cancer. So if you can limit it to 1 a day, or not take in any alcohol at all, that is the most beneficial. So everything in moderation, but alcohol really does have a correlation to cancers. So there have been diet studies suggest that high fruit and vegetable consumption can also lead to certain cancers, but they do studies all the time, so they just have, we have to just say that. It's like those advertisements, when you hear about a new pill in a commercial, and then the side effects go on for a minute. Yeah, it's kind of like that. Nothing is foolproof. Everybody, our bodies are so different that nothing is foolproof. We just have to do what's best for our own bodies. So supplementation, we talked about this a little bit. In China, with the diet low in micronutrients and very high risk of esophageal and gastric cancer. So the micronutrients, all of these vitamins and minerals and micronutrients are really high in our whole grains, mostly our whole grains and our fruits and vegetables. We get protein and B vitamins from our better protein sources, our lean protein sources, but you keep going back to the fruits and vegetables. So calcium, we'll talk about this a little bit. So several studies suggest that foods high in calcium may reduce the risk of colorectal cancer, and calcium supplementation may reduce the formation of colorectal polyps. However, there's evidence that high calcium intake, especially in supplements, will be associated with prostate cancer, also breast cancer. Bottom line, get your calcium through food. So let me ask you, how are you getting your calcium? Are you limiting your dairy at all? Or how are you getting calcium? Or are you just, tell me a little bit about what you're eating.
Well, I was told to drink, now I'm supposed to drink whole milk because they found that, not osteoporosis, the PRMA or whatever, the one right before that.
Osteopenia.
Yeah, that. So it's like, I'm supposed to drink whole milk, I'm supposed to take calcium supplements, and then I eat a lot of yogurt and cottage cheese.
So
But why would the fat
everything
content
in
matter
moderation.
in her milk?
It doesn't. So that was one of the things that I was going to say. Everything in moderation. So calcium in moderation, because too much milk, since it comes from an animal that has hormones in it. You don't have to take it away from your diet completely, but just doing it in moderation. Not at every meal. That's not necessary. Maybe 2 servings a day.
Yeah, I have one for my coffee because I have 1 cup of coffee in the morning, usually with a cup of milk.
However, we just talked about the fat, remember?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So it's not going to, you do not have to take high fat milk to change your bone density. Because all you need is the calcium and the vitamin D, and that you can get from skim.
Oh, okay. Cool.
In organic milk, there's not any hormones, is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
So can you elaborate on the calcium supplements? Because I just came back from I was in a clinical study and they were telling us to take 2,000 calcium a day. So I get contradicting, I'm like, okay.
2,000 a day?
Yeah, take like 1,000 plus 1,000 D3 in the morning and then the same day. So you're taking 2,000 each.
So 1,000 of calcium and 1,000 of D? And that's
morning, and then 1,000 and with each in the evening. So 2 and 2, he said. Yes.
Oh, 2 and 2.
I mean, yeah, 1, 2 times. Yeah. 2,000 calcium and 2,000 D, but half in the morning and half at night.
Oh, wow.
And because you hear a lot that So I mean, I hear it's same thing with the protein. I go to one place and they're just always different. Woke up on protein, and then I go to another one, and it's very contradicting in breast cancer nutrition classes. And I'm like,
Yeah.
those two.
For me, anytime somebody says to gravitate towards one type of food group, that's not.
No, it was very balanced, but it was just saying that you just need to take that too.
Yeah. Well, I think protein is really good for wound healing. It is, but the source of protein is the thing that we need to focus on. So staying away from red meats,
Yeah.
high-fat meats.
Right, yeah, they were just saying like chicken or and have it in also protein powder, the right one. So, but they said 20 grams every 3 times a day. So that's too much. No matter how you get it, she says to make sure that you've got like at least
20 grams of protein.
at your meals, so 3.
At 60 a day, that's a little high. That's a little high. It's not terrible. It's not terrible.
And I probably don't, because I eat probably
That's
more
about 4
vegetables.
ounces a
My
day.
meals are pretty much vegetables. I don't intend to be
Right.
vegetarian, but so
That
I felt
sounds
like
like
I
a-
was not getting enough protein. But if you're saying that, then I'm probably a good balance. 'Cause
No, you probably are. That's about 4 ounces.
That's
each
a lot of
meal.
I don't eat that much.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And
That's
it's usually
usually
just,
4
yeah,
eggs in the morning.
and chicken and salmon is what they pretty much tell you to.
Yeah, chicken, salmon, eggs, egg whites, beans, lentils, grains, like chipotle, couscous that have higher protein amounts in them, and plus they have all the fiber. Those are the better sources. Yeah.
What's your thoughts on turkey?
Turkey's good.
Try to get away from it.
Just not smoked.
Yeah, yeah. Trying to do ground turkey with the kids, not hamburger meat sometimes.
But just be real careful, because sometimes you can get ground beef that has less percentage of saturated fat in it than the ground turkey. So just read your labels. Okay. So lycopene, just to kind of go through a couple of these, is in red orange fruits and vegetables like tomatoes and tomato-based foods. So this is kind of repeating. Okay, so let's talk about meat. So some studies link eating large amounts of preserved meats increase of colorectal and stomach cancer. I think it's across the board. Anything that's smoked, processed, cured, aged, depending on what they use to age it, are things that you need to stay away from. You just need to focus more on the fresh meats, fresh chicken, fresh fish.
What happens during the smoke process?
During the smoking process, it adds the carcinogens.
Darn.
I know. Days of grilling.
Because everybody thinks it's
What about like this? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say, isn't that all barbecue?
Yes.
Because everybody thinks that's healthier, that's coming off the meat. And
Yeah, that is coming off the meat and the smoke is going into
know,
it.
really?
What
I
about like
know.
aged cheeses and stuff?
Those are okay. Those are fine. Yeah, those are fine. Those are fine. They just sit there.
Okay. So aged cheese is okay.
Yes. Yes.
Not taking away all the good stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know, everything
Like
in
food,
moderation.
yeah.
I think if you tell yourself, I can't have this because one reason or another, that's not normal. None of us live like that. And I think it's too much of a burden. You're just going to want it even more. I think everything in moderation. If you want to go to Rudy's one day, you know, some brisket is not going to be the end of the world. Just don't make it one of those things you eat every day or 4 times a week or 3 times a week. Make it, you know, a special occasion, something that you can do. That's a special treat. Okay, so nitrites that come from smoke, nitrites can be converted into the stomach's carcinogens that may increase not only stomach cancers, but it does increase the potential for developing other cancers. And again, the fruits and vegetables seem to deter that. So the cooking methods, frying, broiling, grilling at high temperatures creates chemicals that might increase the risk of cancers. So frying and broiling at high temperatures, so it's not the cooking method, but it's at the very high temperatures. At the very, very high temperatures, you tend to develop smoking. The fat drops off, engages with the heat, and that's where the smoke comes from. So grilling is fine. If you can do it at a lower temperature, maybe keep it open instead of closing it. That's another option. If you're going to fry, I mean, if we're gonna fry some, rather just pan fry it instead of stick it in a fryer.
And what kind of oil would you use?
I would use a vegetable oil, a canola oil, something like that. Olive oil.
That's what I was
Olive
gonna
oil
ask
is
about.
very good as an additive after cooking. With salads, maybe in vegetables, as a dipping sauce. But cooking with it, it loses all of its benefits when it's cooked at a very high temperature.
Olive oil does.
I use sunflower peanut.
Yeah, those are good.
Because you can use those at high temperatures.
Yes.
Avocado oil, peanut.
Avocado oil, walnut oil. You want to flavor your food a little bit differently? There's an array. Those are very tasty. So preferred methods are braising, steaming, poaching, stewing, and microwaving. Sounds all kind of bland. You can do the other methods, just do them at a lower temperature.
There's no baking.
Baking is fine.
But you bake almost everything.
Just not at a really high temperature. Okay, soy. So it contains phytochemicals, phytoestrogens, which have weak estrogen activity and appear to protect against hormone-dependent cancers in animal studies. No evidence shows soy supplements reduce cancer risk. I think you've been told very high doses of soy may increase the risk of estrogen, reproductive cancers such as breast cancer. So having soy only in moderation. So can you think of something that you eat that may have soy, besides soy milk?
Mayonnaise.
Marinades? Soy sauce, Chinese food?
Edamame.
Edamame by itself doesn't.
You're kidding.
It doesn't have a large volume. It has natural soy in it, but it's in a different form. It doesn't have the, how do I explain this? It's higher in fiber, so the combination of the soy content and the fiber make it a better choice.
Okay, so I have estrogen receptor positive. So I stopped eating edamame and I love it. So are you telling me I can eat it?
Well, I think you should eat it in moderation. I don't think you have to totally dismiss it from your diet, but I would definitely eat it in moderation and probably not have any other source of soy.
Okay.
So if that's going to be your only source of, that's hard to say. If that's going to be the only soy that you eat, then you eat it in moderation.
Like a
half
week?
a cup.
Like, okay.
Yes.
Half a cup? Why bother?
Half a cup to a cup, I think would be good.
Half
I
a
don't
cup
feel
of
comfortable. I don't feel comfortable recommending that if you have if you're very sensitive to that.
That's true.
I don't feel comfortable.
Half a cup of just the soybeans is a lot though.
It is.
Just the soybeans
Are
without
you
the
talking about
pods.
the pod?
Yeah, without the pods, half a cup it's better than nothing.
You can take your time.
I know. Save you from doing all the work.
So well, you guys, it's really important to talk to your medical oncologists too, because they all
Yes.
have different philosophies. One will say one thing, the other will say the other. So always, if you do supplements or this, discuss it with your medical oncologist.
Yes.
Very
Yes.
important.
I think it's always better to side, and on the side of caution. But I think depending on the person and depending on how sensitive you are, I think just need to be careful. Yeah.
I would think that if you like to do the soy with the pods, it's the first time, just take, out and then count how many pods it is. Then you know how many pods you can eat.
Right. And it's an excellent source of fiber as well and protein. So, you may just, I'll give you my information and I can give you the amount of soy that's in certain serving sizes and then you can check with your doctor and see if that's okay. Okay, alcohol, I think we talked about that. Everybody got the idea about alcohol? Coffee and tea. Coffee's been investigated as a possible risk factor, but is not to be associated with the increase in cancer. So coffee seems to be okay. Coffee seems to be all right. Regular drinking of green tea and other sources of phytophenols may reduce the risk of stomach cancer and all cancers. So green tea is a really good source of, another way to get caffeine if you're not a coffee drinker. And plus it has a lot of benefits to it as well. Consuming very hot drinks may increase esophageal cancer, which, kind of rubs it raw and may cause problems. So artificial sweeteners. So some of them have been, did you hear all the information about saccharin?
Recently?
It's been a long time. It's been a long time. Saccharin and cancer in rats. I mean, that was a big study that was promoted for a long period of time. And they promoted it enough to make us listen. I think it's information that we need to listen to. I think when you use your sweeteners, a couple of options. Stevia is a natural sweetener, so that would be the first choice. They came out with stevia at first, but they did put some additives in it, so then they came up with Truvia, which is a more pure form of stevia.
So they have a monk fruit or something like that sweetener. Yeah, it's always right next to the stevia, and I've always wondered about that.
It's in an orange box.
Yeah.
What is?
Monk fruit.
Sweetener, yeah. I was like, what is
I
that?
haven't looked at that. They probably took a fruit, whatever a monk fruit is. I've never seen a monk fruit. It must come from a different region. Has anybody seen a monk fruit? I've never seen it.
I always just see it, and I've never
And
tried
I'm
it.
thinking somehow that they break it down so that it's a natural sweetener, just like they do with the plant. Have you
It's
ever
all-
tasted a stevia plant? Like put the leaves in your
Yeah,
mouth?
it's actually very
It's
sweet.
very good. Yeah. it's
Have you
very
ever
sweet.
cooked with it or added it to your tea?
Uh-huh. just
Because
stick
we're
it in your
growing
tea.
one right now. I just haven't tried it yet.
Oh, that's
Mhm.
great. Okay, and the same with aspartame. So they go back and forth. It does cause cancer. It doesn't cause cancer. It does cause cancer. It doesn't cause cancer. My thinking is that it is totally artificially made. There are no natural products in it at all. So taking that information, there's other options that are a lot better. So these are all of our different sweeteners on the market. There's a lot more than this. So we'll go over that. Okay, so food safety. So natural occurring carcinogens in peanuts, plant oils, tannins, in grains, grapes. I mean, these are all very specific things, but basically there are some natural occurring things in foods that our bodies don't react well to, but mainly we need to focus on what they add to our food, like we talked about before. Enhancers, stabilizers, pesticides, things like that. So organic food is always best, of course, but it tends to be expensive. So there's some things that you can do. You can take your fruit and vegetables and you can wash them. If you have fruits and vegetables that have a skin on them, say like a cantaloupe, that is going to be a safer bet. Bananas are safer. Things that the skin is totally removed, those are safer. Apples are probably the most dangerous because they're encased in something. And so if there's been a pesticide during the whole growing process, it's going to kill them.
I've heard that about grapes also.
Yeah.
I've heard to try to buy organic grapes if I can.
Right.
I heard about the cantaloupe, but I was told that you're supposed to really scrub a cantaloupe before you eat it. I mean, the outside, all the things that can.
There's bugs, birds,
Yeah.
droppings, because it's a bottom growing fruit. It grows on the as a vine on the ground. So anything that's tromping around out
Because when
there.
you cut it, then it'll get on the knife from the top and go through your fruit.
Right, and I think that's with any vegetable, cleaning it first, but, when you're removing that skin completely, what you eat in the inside is a lot safer.
Okay, I've got a question. Someone told me not to eat peanut butter because of the peanuts. And I'm like, okay, whatever I do, don't touch it.
Don't touch peanut butter. Well, I would probably, yeah. I think if you have any reservation about it, natural peanut butter is probably the best way to go. Something that hasn't been grown, organic peanut butter, something that doesn't have all those additives, and, it hasn't been sprayed during the growing process.
I mean, it would be high in fat if you ate a lot of it.
Very high in fat. They're healthy fats,
Yeah.
but if you eat a lot of nuts every day, you will gain weight.
Yeah, yeah. If you eat it in almost a lot, like peanut
Yeah,
butter.
moderation, a handful, mix it with some dried fruit, things like that. Those are great snacks. So choose foods in season, grown locally if possible. Rinse fruits and vegetables and remove outer leaves before you eat. Use proper food storage to prevent growth of mold. Marinate protein foods to decrease cooking time. And those are just natural marinades. So lemon juice is a natural marinade. Vinegars. What else do you marinate in? Fruit juices.
Orange juice works real well.
Orange juice works really well. Anything that's acidic that helps break down the tissue before you cook it, it just tenderizes the meat. And then use cooking methods to avoid contact with food, drippings, or the flames. And that's just the smoking. So I would just avoid cooking at really high temperatures. And if you are going to grill outside and keep it open, just making sure it's not, getting absorbed into the meat. So according to the AICR, do you know what that is? American Institute of Cancer Research. So their recommendations are choose a diet rich in a variety of plant-based foods, eat plenty of fruits and vegetables, maintain a healthy weight, and be physically active. Drink alcohol only in moderation, if at all. Select foods low in fat and salt. So in fat and salt, so speaking of salt, you have to either read labels or just be aware of your salt intake, because a lot of foods have salt. So anything that's canned, pre-made, pre-packaged, they usually use a salt-based preservative. So just be aware of that. Sauces, any kind of sauce that we use, like A1 sauce, ketchup, mustard, any kind of sauce usually adds a little bit of salt to it. So just use that in moderation as well. And then prepare and store safe.
Question about that. I was told to get rid of all my plastic and only use glass. Is that, is using plastic really that bad, or is it just a certain type of plastics? And that
You
means
should never
baggies, too?
reheat your food in plastic. You should always reheat your food in glass and just cover it maybe with a paper towel or wet paper towel to keep it from flying off.
So don't put your Tupperware in there.
Don't put your Tupperware while you reheat them.
But it's okay to store it like in a plastic baggie, like a Ziploc baggie?
I don't know a lot about what they use to make plastic bags. That's a really good question. I'll look into that, but I don't know a lot about what they use. I know that they, inside of some cereals, they spray the inside of the bag before they add the cereal to maintain the shelf life. So, I don't know.
It's like I don't buy gallon milk anymore. I buy it in the cartons now. It's plastic and plastic. So it's like, I don't want juice in plastic, because I said, don't use any plastic. I drink water out of plastic. That's why I didn't get that.
And you can take a lot of steps towards being healthy and avoiding a lot of negative effects from certain foods, but we're not going to be able to completely stop from getting any kind of chemicals in our bodies just because that's how they process food. Unless you grow your own food, pack your own food, You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, you know, in the whole process of making milk, it goes through the whole process. It's chilled before it goes into that plastic. So usually plastic leaches when it's heated. So, you know, I'm not understanding that. So that's another one of those I'm not aware of.
It was something about it being plastic, but also the fact that the sunlight can get into, or you can see it through and it does something to the milk or something like that, so always get in a car. So I was like, okay, whatever. I'll get in a
Wow,
car.
I haven't investigated that.
And I have a question about milk. I've read articles recently where, because milk comes from an animal, we weren't supposed to eat anything from an animal. And there's a real big movement, because my daughter-in-law's in it. So she's eliminated cheese, anything dairy. They're dairy-free. And I don't know if that's good or not, because I know you can get calcium from some vegetables. You know, you can get it, you know, from some fish, but she has eliminated dairy, and she's so proud of it because of, you know, that movement that's going on. So, I mean, is that where you should eliminate milk, or?
Well,
I mean, I just don't know.
We're the only, have you heard that before? Like, we're the only culture,
Right, species
that
right.
drink other animals' milk.
Right.
They also drink it beyond the nursing stage.
Right,
When typically that's when it stops.
exactly. So,
So
like
is
you
milk
said,
good? Is it dairy good, or is it, I mean?
I can't say that it's bad. I think it's an excellent source of protein, calcium, vitamin D. But like you said, you can get all that elsewhere.
Yeah, but I guess you would really have to know your vegetables.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
really
it's
to
mostly,
get
your dark green leafy vegetables. Those are really high in calcium. Green nuts. You know, there's a lot of different ways.
Different.
Fortified juices, they put calcium in everything.
They don't add calcium and vitamin D though to almond milk. Do you know? That was a question, not a statement. I'm sorry.
I believe they do. I believe they add calcium and vitamin D. It's very low in protein. But I believe they do. I believe they fortify it with calcium and vitamin D. Unless there's a brand that doesn't. Because when we think of milk, we think of calcium and vitamin D. Just like with breads, they fortify them with like riboflavin because that is removed during processing. So, yeah. So they add to a lot. They add calcium and vitamin D to a lot of foods, a lot of beverages and foods. Fortified. So, and the American Cancer Society guidelines are very simple, very similar. So you see the plant-based diet, vegetables and fruits every day, fruits and vegetables at every meal, and for snacks, variety of fruits and vegetables, limit French fries, snack chips, and other fried vegetable products. Limit. That falls under the fat category. And then choose 100% juice to drink, juice and vegetable and fruit juices.
And it's the concentrated juices that have the real high sugar content.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So,
Yeah, and you can tell by reading the label. You can look at some juices and compare them side by side. They have a lot of, they had one that I tried the other day, and I think it was Minute Maid, and it had all the berries in it, the blueberries, the raspberries, and all that, and it was delicious. And it is sweet, so I'm telling you, you only need a teeny bit, and I mean, it's very sweet because it doesn't have as much water in it. It has its concentrated nutrition, so all you need is a little bit. To go on the whole grains and other things like whole grain rice, bread, pasta, cereals, and then limit consumption of carbohydrates. So everybody's in agreement with all the same things. Limit consumption of red meats, especially those that are high in fat and processed. Choose fish, poultry, and beans as an alternative to beef, pork, and lamb. when you eat meat, select lean cuts in smaller portions. So a normal portion is like a deck of cards, it's between 3 or 4 ounces. So when you think about, you know, these big steaks that you find at restaurants or, you know, giant portions of everything, usually half of that is the normal serving size. And then, let's see, where are we? When you eat meat, select lean cuts and then prepare them by the preferred methods. Choose foods that help maintain healthy weight. So, French fries all the time. Facilitate healthy weight. So when you eat away from home, choose foods low in fat, calories, sugar, and avoid large portions. You can always ask in restaurants how they make something. If they add something to it, you can ask for your sauces on the side, your dressings on the side, and that way you can control your portion. Eat smaller portions of high-calorie foods and be aware of low-fat and fat-free does not mean low-calorie. So you can have fat-free, let's say, pudding, but it is not low in sugar because milk has natural sugar in it. So even though it says fat-free on the fat, it still has, if they take out all the fat, so mayonnaise is a really good example. So if they take all the fat out of mayonnaise, they have to put something else in there to balance out the flavor and the texture and everything. And it's usually some kind of a gum and a sugar. So you're trading sugar for fat. So it's better just to stick with plain old and eat it in moderation. Substitute fruits and vegetables and other low-calorie foods. You know, stay away from the high-fat food stuff. So those are your basic lifestyle changes. And physical activity, veggies, it just reiterates over and over again the same thing. Do you guys have any questions? Any more questions?
I have one.
Yes.
Is it bad to drink pickle juice?
That's very difficult. I would say yes on that.
Other than the fact that it makes you too.